Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Wildcard Sunday, and we're going to look at something a little bit different from our regularly scheduled videos during the week. So this is Wolverine, The Jungle Adventure by writer Walter Simonson, artist Mike Mignola, penciler, and Bob Wiacek is the inker. So this is just a comic I remember fondly from my youth. Didn't know much about Mike Mignola, I think, before I bought this comic, and I'd kind of seen covers and stuff. I know he did the Death of the Family covers, and I didn't really like his art before that. Oh, I had seen X-Force, the infamous X-Force number 8, I believe, and I didn't like his art there either. But somehow I came upon this, and for some reason there was something evocative enough about the cover here. Later on, when I discovered a little bit more about comics and Frank Frazetta, I can totally see the influence here, and I feel like the composition, everything is kind of what drew me to this cover. So thank you, Frank Frazetta, through the filter of Mike Mignola. But yeah, just a cool cover. The fact that we've got like a butt just kind of looking at us here when we're 12, 13 years old is definitely a plus. So that helps too. And just some nice line work on this cover. And maybe what helped me like Mike Mignola a bit more at that time is I wasn't so much into the dark shadows, even though later I would certainly learn to appreciate that. And this comic here felt just a little more traditionally drawn, even though it was Mike Mignola. He's still kind of doing more classic comic booky stuff. This is in around the period he also did Cosmic Odyssey, maybe the year before, 1988, I think it came out. And I really love Cosmic Odyssey as well. I love the New Gods, and Mignola is one of the rare other artists other than Kirby that I feel did them all right. Kind of giving away the big plot twist here by having Apocalypse on the cover, but I guess it could have been something else, but I'm not quite sure why they did that. It's an odd kind of spoiler, but anyways, still a cool looking image. So nostalgia, love this comic as a kid. I haven't looked through this in years, so I didn't. For this, most reviews, I look at the comics first, go through them, read them, whatever. But for this one, I wanted it to kind of be fresh, so I haven't looked through it. And again, I haven't looked in these pages in at least, I'm assuming, 20 years. So here we go with Wolverine, The Jungle Adventure. Plot-wise, I remember the story. It's basically Wolverine's, in the jungle. There's these dinosaurs attacking the inhabitants of the Savage Land, and what we discover is that they're actually robots controlled by Apocalypse, and Apocalypse is just doing experimenting on all these people, trying to evolve them as is Apocalypse's kind of way. And Wolverine has a fight with Apocalypse, find out it's just a robot double, and kind of like Nick Fury, I guess. And then, out of the jungle land, he leaves and leaves behind a son, basically, or a child. I'm not quite sure if it's a boy or girl, but with one of the tribeswomen, right, that he copulates with. Just a fun kind of pulpy story, I guess, is what I'd describe this book as. And just some, like I said, some really interesting Mike Mignola artwork before he kind of really settles into his style and stops doing certain things in comics. Different, harder angles. Like, he does a lot of head-on stuff. He's developed his own style and he does what he wants, and I totally get it. He's very successful, but I still feel like he's a little bit more in the mold of a traditional comic book artist here, who's drawn all different genres of stuff, and has to basically draw lots of different stories, not just Hellboy and horror stories, right? So this is definitely more, like I said, pulpy feeling, an adventure story. So yeah, Wolverine's coming through into the Savage Land on this flying contraption. They've started venerating this lighter we got here, which is basically a lighter that Wolverine lost, right? And is getting back. It was a gift from Nick Fury. And of course, I guess because he used the lighter and makes fire come out of it and all this stuff, they see him as a challenge to their tribe, to the gods or something. He's a god who's come down to challenge them. And the leader of the tribe challenges him. I love the visuals here. Like I said, Mignola, not with all that heavy shadow and just a little bit of texture work. Almost something more akin to Eric Larson at this point, to a certain extent, rather than the deep dark shadows that we see usually. So you get to see a bit more of Mike Mignola not hiding everything he doesn't like to draw in heavy shadows. And we get some cool results. Like, there's some stuff where this straight up hatching on the arm for his arm hair, I think looks really cool and helps work with the movement, the dynamism there. So I think these comics, Mike Mignola wise, with his art, move more than maybe the Hellboy stuff. Pretty dynamic. Like, it's a period of Mike Mignola that I think looks really good. You know, there's a good balance between, again, the darker stuff he likes to do and just opening up a little bit more for the visuals and it not being so dark and murky all the time and horror kind of inspired, right? So he ends up beating their tribe's leader, and he shows up to Logan's cave and reveals himself to be a beautiful woman. And of course, we know what happens, right? And I like the Walt Simonson writing because, okay, so the character is called Gak, and she shows up and she, you know, reveals herself and clearly takes off her top here, and I guess offering herself up to Logan, you know, and he, you know, it says Wolverine says Gak, but I don't feel like it's him saying her name. He's him, you know, surprised and reacting to the fact that Gak is a woman. It's a double kind of thing there, right? And he looks, the face is like he's pretty happy to have found out that Gak's a woman. And there we go. We can assume that at some point the relationship will be consummated, and still playing up with the fact that she's pretty much an Amazon. She's a pretty tall girl. You know, she's the leader of the tribe, so she has to be, you know, pretty strong. She's kind of a big Barda character, I would say. Walt Simonson's a huge Jack Kirby fan, so I do feel like there's maybe a bit of Kirby influence here. And Wolverine is still, you know, the movie hasn't happened. He's being depicted as being 5'3" and fairly short, so she actually picks him up to kiss him, which is an interesting, you know, Wolverine getting a little bit emasculated there, but he doesn't seem to mind. So yeah, the mystery that's revealed as to why, you know, he's gone to the Savage Land and how he got there. Is that what's kind of, yeah, so I'm not quite sure I remember this part of the story and exactly why he's being attacked here. It's one of Apocalypse's tribesmen. Yeah, that's it. I think that's been augmented with some of that technology that attacks Wolverine. And he talks about the smell. Is it the? Yeah, exactly. So through the smell, the scent, metal, hot, pain, I can feel it somehow like it was me. But there's something else, something far away and familiar too. Earth damp, lizards, jungle. I know that smell. The Savage Land. So that's, you know, the mystery that brings Logan to the Savage Land. I like these shots here. Kind of reminiscent of the explorations of the, you know, Great North here in Canada, right, in the 1800s. All the people who kind of perished going out there because it's freaking cold and inhospitable. And it's not somewhere you'd probably want to really travel to unless you're prepared and you got lots of, you know, things to keep you alive, heat, food, etc. Yeah, rough life up there. So Wolverine just, you know, kind of sticks around here and is hunting with the tribes and helping them out, killing the big honkers, they call them, the dinosaurs, right? Always liked this shot. I think this was in a Wizard comic at some point, and I always thought it looked really cool. Just that little hint of blood there throughout the shadows. It's always a nice effect. Mark Chiarello is the colorist on this, and I do want to mention him because there's something about the colors that are just simple and subdued and work really well throughout this comic. Oh, there's another girl kind of flirting with Wolverine, and Gak comes in and takes care of her, right? Wolverine is her man. So comes running in to explain that a father's lost his son. The honker of doom has returned. So the big Tyrannosaurus Rex and eaten their son. What we're going to find out in the story is that he's not actually eating them. He's putting, because this is a giant robot, putting them inside and bringing them to Apocalypse so that he can experiment on them. This is a great illustration just because, of course, the whole tribe confronting Wolverine, but go through, you know, all these characters in the back. They're all doing something different, standing differently, you know, body language wise. It's just, this is the kind of stuff that takes a long time, right? Like, you can do a sketch of this, but then when you have to actually work out everyone's body language and position and stuff, and just each character takes time to get right. So, you know, it's doable. Each of these characters are, you know, you can draw fairly quickly, but having to draw like 30 of them takes time, but that's what makes this a convincing illustration, an establishing shot of what's going on. These guys will always kind of remind me of, like, listen, obviously more primitive men in like 2001 Space Odyssey, kind of. Maybe they're a little more advanced than the apes in there, but so yeah, father's angry. He thinks it's somehow Wolverine's fault, so he stabs him, and of course we know Wolverine doesn't feel that, right? So Wolverine decides to go after this hunker Doom. And look at, I love these shots here. Like his establishing shots are just masterful. So evocative. This looks a lot like, I lived in British Columbia when I was a kid, and the trees are huge there. So obviously when trees fall down, right, you know, they're tens of feet and sometimes hundreds of feet above, a gorge, or just, I can remember, playing in the woods and walking on a fallen tree trunk, 3 guys wide, because it's so wide, and we're 75 feet up or something. Just kind of like Wolverine here. A little bit reminiscent of Predator, I think, a little bit. No, there's something to me here that, it's that shot of Arnold at the end when he's beating the Predator and Predator's about to blow up. I know Walt Simonson is a big fan of dinosaurs, so I guess maybe that's why there's dinosaurs in the story. It is in the Savage Land, so maybe that's why he chose to have it there. And maybe it was just he talked with Mike Mignola and that'd be something he was into drawing. He does a pretty good job overall. I like his interpretations here. So Wolverine gets eaten up as well, right? And then cuts out of him, and that's when he realizes, well, hey, this is a robot. I like the simple way he just explains away the hole that Wolverine has just come through, where it's just a twirly design. Like it's such an odd choice, but it works somehow to just explain away what's in the inside without having to show it. It's an interesting artistic technique. I've never seen anyone do something like that. So all of a sudden it's like we're looking to a tunnel to go to like Beetlejuice World or something. I don't know. Just odd, but I guess it works. Don't have to explain what's in the inside. This was always a weird shot to me, though, where, like, I don't know if this camera's picking up properly, but this brontosaurus, I assume, right? That's kind of the shape of what we know as a brontosaurus. The head just disappears, and is it meant to be like, oh, the head's so high up, it's in the clouds, these dark clouds? Always thought that was weird there. Just a big headless dinosaur. I think there might have been some sort of shadow effect he was going for there, but it didn't quite work out. Just a odd headless dinosaur. And of course, because he's on a mission, all of a sudden, Wolverine decides to put on his costume. Because listen, it's still that time at Marvel Comics where you want the character at some point in each issue to be in costume, right? So it basically finds Apocalypse's secret lair, falls into it, and obviously he's imprisoned. Pretty cool shot of Apocalypse here. I really like, you're starting to see the Mike Mignola kind of steampunk aesthetic in technology and stuff, right? So, as highly advanced as you would expect Apocalypse to be, this all looks like, it's pneumatic, like it works on steam, right? So yeah, that's where we see where he's experimenting on the tribes people, right? And we see this guy here, and right away we're kind of focusing more on him because he is the son that was eaten or kidnapped by the giant honker. Somehow Gak has followed Wolverine, though, and she helps him out here. Throws a rod at Apocalypse. Doesn't do much, but I guess it's enough to distract him, right? And of course he's going to threaten Gak. And without Apocalypse knowing, she throws the lighter. That's all Wolverine's going to need in the quick kind of slightly Jack Kirby sequence here. I don't know if Mike Mignola would do anything resembling this kind of sequence. Maybe that's more of a Walt Simonson kind of thing too. Wonder if he provided layouts for this. Sometimes I wonder with some of the stuff. I don't feel Mike Mignola would ever do something like this. But Walter Simonson, I definitely could see him doing that. Kind of a cool shot of Wolverine here. This is a good example of, maybe you don't draw too much stuff in the background and add too much detail to it because it helps keep the focus on the character. The colors are also doing that by being very contrasting, obviously, with the background, but also keeping the background almost monochrome, right? That really helps to pop the figure with minimal different colors, right? Wolverine's really just 2 different colors here on this monochrome kind of background. Apocalypse is cool. Looks kind of skull-like, almost like the Red Skull to me. But yeah, the depiction of Mike Mignola's depiction of Wolverine is pretty darn cool all the way throughout. It looks a little odd from the back here. It's kind of an odd look. All right, so we get the ensuing battle between the two. It's a pretty cool shots all around. Like I said, Mignola here kind of pulling a Kirby, I guess is how I describe it. And as he chips away, you start to see that, you know, Apocalypse, again, is just some sort of dummy robot that's replacing him, right? Like Nick Fury, once again. Body double. Doom does it too, right? So it's a fairly common trope in Marvel Comics. I do like, though, the kind of progressive beating down and destruction of Apocalypse here. Now he starts looking like an ape, almost. And yeah, this is a pretty cool scene of, you know, Wolverine kind of letting loose. And being able to just hack away at someone because, again, it's not a human being, and the comics code won't worry about that. There's some blood there. Is that Wolverine's? You have to assume. I don't know why a robot would have blood, but yeah, he just beats it down until it's just a hunk of junk. And this is a pretty cool shot here. Good idea to just cut everything out and just use the white negative space there. Very cool. Yeah, it's like, this whole comic to me is like looking at Hellboy and someone just taking a big spotlight and like lighting up some things so it's a little clearer and we can see stuff. Not that I don't like Hellboy, but you know, this really shows that Mike Mignola can for sure draw all this stuff properly. This was an interesting bit. I don't know if it ever, you know, came to anything, but it's a skull made of no adamantium, right? You should learn to relax more, Logan. It's a wonder you haven't had a heart attack, but of course you have special advantages over most people. So you actually have Apocalypse showing up as a hologram. And I think this might relate to, before they revealed more of his origins, you know, later on in 90s Marvel, it was hinted at that Wolverine may have been, you know, instead of the Weapon X program being what gave him the adamantium and evolved him into this kind of fighting machine, I think they were hinting at the fact that it was Apocalypse, right? So I don't know for sure. I feel like John Byrne and Chris Claremont, I've heard this, that they were hinting towards that being part of his origins, and then, you know, Barry Windsor Smith came in, that all those plans changed because they let him have it, the origin, and do the Weapon X kind of thing, right? Which kind of muddied the waters for a while, but eventually became part of his story, right? That Wolverine was given the adamantium not by Apocalypse, but by the Weapon X program, the Canadian government, etc., turned him into like a fighting machine, a war machine, a killing machine. Good, again, good color choices here. Good contrast from just, you know, a Dark Knight to a huge explosion. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but, you know, to pull it off well is not always obvious. Almost looks like the Tunguska event here, if you know what that is. And then, you know, you think Wolverine's perished, but no, he flies off with his flying machine and leaves Gak behind, right? And as they're singing his legend of the Wolverine, how he saved the tribe, well, we get a quick shot here of Gak later on with what we have to assume is Wolverine's child. So no one's ever, I don't think that's Daken, right? I don't believe so. Unless someone out there knows something that I don't, and you could tell me that this kid is who grew up to be Daken eventually, because I know they did reveal that Wolverine had a son, this Daken guy. And if not, maybe that's an interesting plot point somewhere in the future for Wolverine comics, to go and see what happened to this son here from the Savage Land. Again, if anyone knows if there's any kind of plot point after this comic that brings this back or relates to it, let me know in the comments. I'd be curious to know for sure. So there you go, guys. That is my review of Wolverine, The Jungle Adventure. Great kind of fun one-shot. If you find it out there, it's probably still pretty cheap. You can get it for cheap, so go for it. I definitely recommend this one. It's fun art, fun story, just, one and done. Cool stuff, cool colors as well. And someone in production kind of fucked up because the Marvel logo looks really weird here. There's no contour. It's like they forgot the line layer on top. I don't know if they're all like that. Maybe this one's worth more because of it. I doubt it. Maybe there's a printing mistake. So that is it for today's review, guys. Thank you to everyone out there who's still watching and who are subscribed. I really appreciate it. We're on the road to 500 subscribers to be recognized by YouTube as an official channel. So if you're watching, you're not subscribed yet, please do so below. Only takes a second for you. Helps the channel, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So everyone out there, have yourselves a great Sunday and have an awesome day all around. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like, subscribe.